Hey guys, welcome to the Flat Thunder channel. Let's get this engine back in this Bobcat. We have the hydraulic pump mounting bracket. We're going to replace the bushings. The bushings are worn out. You have some new bushings from Loader Part Source. Need to work out this old bushing. Gotta try to cut it off. It's flared out, a bell. It's not really how I expected that to go. Worked though. Yeah, that's junk. We got both new bushings installed. We went in a little bit more difficult than I thought they should. Definitely recommend adding some lubricant. I use WD-40, anything will work. The pump bracket is now installed with the new bushings. These bolts are a little difficult to get to. You almost have to reach in from the other side. The head for the bolts are actually underneath the fuel tank. There is a slot you can stick a box in or an open-end wrench in. The fuel tank's lifted now because the previous owner installed a low head bolt, which I could not get the wrench to hold on, so I had to lift the tank up to access it. But you should be able to slide a wrench in these spots with the fuel tank down. Time to put the fan shroud in. And it has a rivet in the bottom of the shroud. This is the rivet. I did not know until I looked in the manual, but you just push the pin out and you can reuse it. You don't have to drill it out. Here's the pin. Reinstall it, push the pin in, and the bottom it spans out underneath the frame of the unit. It's got the oil cooler temporarily held in place or roughly in place with some vice grips. Need to connect the lines underneath. It's going to be pretty interesting because the lines are sitting at a little bit of an angle in comparison to the oil cooler. And the trick is to stick your hand into the fan shroud, reach up inside, and start it like this. Now I left the oil cooler loose, it's just lightly held on by vice grips and that allowed me to push down on the top to make it match the angle of the steel line. This other side, same idea. You have to stick your arm through the hole, ow, and reach up to grab the line from inside. But on this side, I removed the vice grip because I was having trouble aligning because the steel line wasn't perfectly in place or shifted. So I loosened it and let it set right on the steel line. I was able to get it started. There we go. We'll tighten those up, put the bolts in, onto the next step. So we got the oil cooler in. We dropped in this top cover next. It's like it had custom bolts. I think we're gonna do away with those and just use regular bolts there. Oil cooler's already bolted in with standard fasteners. We made a special line clamp to keep the line from rubbing on the other fitting down there. These little covers with the cam latches popped in next. Those seem to fit. They close off the fan shroud and make the airflow go straight through the cooler and the radiator. You have the new engine mounts. I'm going to mount these to the unit, and then we're going to try to slide the engine in over top. Okay, we got the bolts in loosely, so the engine mounts still move, free to move. We're going to slide this bad boy into there. I set it on the rear mounting plate on the back of that 2x4 just to raise it up, and I moved it in until the rear chain hit on this frame structure. So I'm going to support the front with a jack and remove this rear chain and slide it back on that 2x4. First, I'm going to grease the spline hub. Just removing the load leveler. Just gonna hook it on the chain that's furthest out. So off center, without that second hook, the starter wants to make it rock. Just gonna put a ratchet strap on it to try to correct it a little bit. Alright, got the big pry bar. We'll see if we can leave it supported by the jack on this end and scoot it back on that 2x4. Oh yeah, well, it seems to be working.
we got her in. All the engine mounts are bolted down. We're gonna hook up the fuel lines and deal with this wiring mess going on here. Everything was just like hand wired together when I got it. Big rat's nest. We have all these things over here that I don't even know. Pretty sure the big red one goes to the main power, but the rest of them are just loose, broken stuff. The cutouts for the radiator hoses, the rubber grommets were dry rotted and just completely crumbled when I touched them. So I took some of the old fuel line, split it lengthwise. We're going to use this as a new grommet. There we go. It's going to work. I guess these brackets hold the radiator down and hold it in place. One on each side. There's no rubber bumpers or cushioning on this. I feel like it should have some, so we're going to do something similar with some old heater hose that I had. I split it down the middle. We're going to put some on top, we're going to put some on the bottom just to give it a cushion so it doesn't wear a hole in itself. Okay, we got the radiator in. These are the rubber bumpers I made from heater hose. Worked okay, it doesn't look the greatest, but it'll do its job. We added this old crappy muffler that was on the unit when we got it. We need to do something different there. It barely clamped onto the flex pipe down here. I don't even know if it's clamped, but hopefully it directs some of the exhaust gases out of the engine compartment. The radiator's in. The next step is to install this cover, which they blew a crappy hole in for this not factory exhaust. And then we can install the shroud for the radiator on top. That's the last step. We're in. We got a temporary battery in place. We used this electric fuel pump that was installed on the unit, not factory but worked, to prime the fuel filter. And now we cracked all the fuel injector lines at the injectors loose. We're going to manually turn it over and bleed the fuel system. It's go time. I don't know what's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. Stuff might blow everywhere. Need to find my safety goggles. We got it jacked up on jack stands just for safety in case it decides to take off running. But we're ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. finally got it. She runs and moves under her own power. First time since we ever owned it. And it's so much easier to drive it than it is to drag it around with another truck or tractor. Tune in next time. We're going to work on some wiring and fixing all the other minor issues. It seems like she goes pretty good. Drives forward, drives backwards. Has a little bit of creep on the left side. Not a huge deal. I think we just need to adjust the linkage. But we'll do that in the next few episodes. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Leave your questions and comments in the section below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks, everybody.